it was just wild. Yeah, like people had never bought one single work of mine before. It just seemed like the perfect recipe for them to get involved in.
It was one of my favorite tweets, and I retweeted it. Someone put four pianos on their Twitter, and someone said, "Did you buy all four of those?" And he goes, "Don't be absurd. I bought five,"
Yes,
as though buying
that
four would be a
that
ridiculous thing to do.
that guy is such a legend. When I learned he bought five, I was like, I was in utter shock because of everything. But then to know someone bought five and for like pretty good, like for good, like very expensive prices, it was just I was like, oh my God.
Hi, everyone. It's Sam, NFT Statistics, and today we have Alpha Centauri Kid, ACK, on the podcast. This is the second time we've had ACK on the show in the past 9 months. Last time he was on, he spoke with Kevin, and he talked about how his initial sales were in the $30 to $50 to $100 price range. Well, just last week, he had a sale of 48 piano-inspired NFTs that went for a combined $1.4 million. How did it go so well in this bear market? Well, this is a project that ACK has been working on for the past 20 months, largely building in public, working every single day on the ultimate output. He had over 100 pieces that he liked, that he thought could fit into this collection, but whittled it down to 48 to get what he thought was the perfect set. In this show, we go over individual pieces and what those mean to him. We also talk about how he's always been a step ahead of the game. He did the Great Color Study, which was one of the early projects that did additions. He has a PFP, a profile picture project that has gone incredibly well. He's one of the few NFT artists who has done a physical print with a major auction house. And says that he has a lot more coming, that this piano theme is only in the early stages. He goes over some of his hugely ambitious ideas for what he wants to do going forward. It's always an honor to talk with one of the absolute best in the industry. I hope you enjoy this conversation. ACK, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, some of our listeners might not know this, but you actually did a podcast with Kevin Rose about 6 months ago. But I think given everything that's going on with the piano, it's just awesome to have you back.
Thank you, man. Yeah, Kevin came through for me clutch whenever I was doing my Muse, my silkscreen Muse sell with the Christie's, and yeah, he interviewed me about that, which was cool.
Yeah, awesome. One of the things you said in that podcast was that your first sale was for $30. Your first NFT sale was $30, and you just completed an auction for 48 pieces that accumulated $1.4 million just a couple years later. What's that feeling like? Like what is that experience to go from just getting started and then a few years later to have such a huge momentous kind of work sell like this?
Man, that's a good question. It's definitely impossible to put into words, but like I haven't given myself much time to sit and think about it or to like to pat myself on the back really because I think there's so many things ahead that I want to accomplish. I feel like now I can truly begin my journey in this art world.
Yeah. Let's just talking a little bit about the piano sale. What is it about the piano that's so special to you that you wanted to build a 48 piece set just around that instrument?
Well, for me personally, it's I consider it like my gateway to the muse. That was like the theme of this collection for me personally as I was creating the works. But I didn't set out to make 48. It was just circumstantial because I had over 100 that for a few weeks, I would just, I thought I liked 100, but the more I looked and I just whittled some away here and there. And even the day I minted all of the 48, I had 50 and I took two out last minute because they just didn't feel right cohesively. And, um, and yeah, and then it's just a piano is something for me where if I'm having creative block or anything, I can just sit and play a few keys and it just my mind opens to new ideas and and experiences I can pursue.
Are we ever going to see those two that didn't make it? Do you think there'll ever be kind of a tack on sale or something like that?
No, no, if they got cut, that's it. They're gone forever. Yeah, because
What was that process like going from 100 to 48? Like what were you looking for? What I mean, that must have been if there were more than 50, 60 that you eliminated, that must have been so much work that you put in that's not going to see the light of day now.
so it kind of was a process on its own, just like through creation, because I had a yes, a maybe, and a no folder. And so every time I had a certain yes, like everyone you see was a yes. You know, they go in the yes folder, but then there was a bunch in the maybe folder and then a few in the no folder. But yeah, it's just ones I would come back to like the maybes that I love the idea of them, but they just didn't transfer visually. So it just I learned in this process too, like if there's a hesitation, then that's enough for me to not include it in the collection
Yeah, so everything that you end with just has to be something that you're a slam dunk on. You're like, I'm
for sure.
100% in. And is
I
that where
think
you
so.
landed? Are there any that you look back and you say, maybe that wasn't the best choice for this collection?
No, no, not at all. Just yeah, I got the perfect 48 somehow. I knew that like that's why I decided to mint them now because waiting on the market to improve would have been wait, I would have just died waiting. So it just everything felt right and I just moved towards that and things happened the way they happened. Yeah, it's just you couldn't plan it.
I mean, how long have you been working on this for? I remember seeing tweets where you were talking about pianos
Yeah.
back in January, and I imagine that that was not even close to the beginning. Like, how long has this been a process for you?
I'm pretty sure I started the end of 2021, like November, yeah, September, October, maybe November-ish. And it's the first year was like nonchalant working on them. Like I knew I wanted a large collection, but I underestimated how I was going to bring it together, and that just kind of evolved serendipitously. But yeah, it's been a long process. The last year I've been working on pianos every day.
Wow. So for the entire past year.
Yes, every day.
And as you're doing it, you've also cranked out some other incredible work. So
Yeah.
is it just a thing where you can just compartmentalize and go from one project, go work on the Muse or whatever the stuff you've done for Christie's, and then in another moment work on great color study, and then be doing the piano work, or has this really been the core and everything else has kind of taken up less of your attention?
No, I think it's like good that I was able to do different things because I didn't want to walk away from this hating pianos. I wanted to still love them. So like doing these other things and finding things that inspired me differently was I think super healthy for the piano collection. I didn't plan it that way. It's just fortunately it happened that way.
Are there any in particular that for you were the most complex or the most interesting as far as the 48 that you published?
Let me pull them up 1 second so I can just scroll through them. I mean, the first piano was my first favorite because it was like the first one that I made where it just it's what set me off on this journey to create a collection of piano art. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, so like let me just look through them. There's just it's so hard to pick because it's like 48 of my favorites, but like the collector is just striking. It's that blue one with the guy reaching up, you know, consuming the piano. That one's just it's just really like powerful to me every time I see it.
This you're saying that this is one of the most powerful to you.
I mean, aesthetically, I don't want to say it's one of the most, but like it's one that I just hmm, I don't want to like specialize it amongst the others. It's just one of the ones that from the moment I made it was just very powerful.
There was the piece that Curated bought, which ended up going for the most ETH.
The looming
When
unknown, yeah.
the looming unknown, what was your relationship like with that piece?
Oh man, that one's kind of what happened here, like from my perspective. You know, I didn't know what was ahead of me. It's just total blackness, but I had to move towards it because I had this grand vision to come up with this piano collection, and I didn't think people would give a shit about pianos, like, but I just knew it's what I was here to do.
Is there anything about one thing I'm always intrigued by is how, with all of NFTs and art in general, there's what the artist brings into the picture, and then there's the way that the community interacts with it. And I feel like a lot of the artists I've talked to said that the community interacts with their work in a way that they didn't expect. This collection's only been around for a few days. Was there anything that surprised you thus far as the way the community has interacted with it?
Oh man, yeah, it's been unbelievable. The amount of support I saw and just pouring in was just unreal for me. It's not anything you can like comprehend really. It's just it's all happening at once, and yeah, there's really no words to describe it. The support was insane, and um, just truly appreciative of how it all came together. Yeah, it's crazy.
Why do you call this one self portrait? It's I mean this was the second most expensive piece. Yeah, I think it went for 30 ETH.
Hmm.
And self portrait is just an interesting title for it.
Yeah, well, it's loading kind of slow probably, but when it's processing properly, the GIF, the animation looks really nice and clean. But I call this one self-portrait because that one reminds me of me myself on working on this collection. Like I'm drowning in all the noise, but I'm still reaching for my piano, and it really symbolizes kind of what happened to me throughout this journey.
Were there any photographs involved? You mentioned on a different interview, I was listening to one on Rug Radio. You mentioned that you were experimenting with all sorts of different kind of media that were new for you. Was the
Hmm.
one that sold on secondary yesterday a photograph, or what were
No,
the different kinds of?
that was made in 3D. It was fully like so. Yeah, there it
Okay,
is, the Mad Pianist. That's just a
yeah,
3D scene. I started with the upright piano, and um, I just started building. Yeah, it was one of my favorites to work on because I feel like this is a if I had a studio in like New York, this is what I would want it to look like.
yeah, yeah. No, it's very cool. And one thing that was clear to me once this collection, like once the auctions happened, it felt like there was kind of like a moment in time where the world and the collector community and kind of everyone kind of realized that this was something that was special and they wanted to be a part of. And you saw that in this sale that went for 21 ETH literally one day or
Mm,
2 days after the auction for 12 ETH. So that was one of the things I really noticed was suddenly it was like, wow, we just had
yeah,
this massive auction in the midst of one of the biggest bear markets we've ever seen for NFT art, for PFPs, for really every form of our movement right now. Did you feel that as well, kind of as the
oh yeah,
artist?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Like it felt like the worst time to release a collection, but all that to me felt like the right time because even when I did the color study, it was not a great market, and people didn't like open editions because you know, Drift did one, and then X Copy did his, and then of course everyone loved it, and I supported it because I loved the art and I got to collect from them. But I don't think open editions were very favored in that time. So, but mine had like I knew there would be purpose in mine because I had the Burn to Redeem to to pick your favorite color of the color studies, and so and I told myself I would never do an open edition, but once I saw there could be purpose behind it, then yeah, it made sense for me. And so yeah, experiencing all that kind of helped me understand, you know what, like just because the conditions are bad doesn't mean it's a bad time for me to release art to the world.
yeah. What are kind of some of the bigger picture messages you kind of want people to walk away with from this collection? I mean, on the one hand, it's just a lot of cool art around pianos, but is there any kind of takeaways that you were hoping people would have beyond just a really diverse range of artwork around an instrument?
Um, I mean, for me, what's been one of the most special things is knowing that this many people cared about piano art. You know what I mean? Because I love the piano, but not everybody loves the piano. And one of my goals was to kind of transcend that feeling, and somehow it worked. But yeah, I think to my peers, I would share, I would encourage them to pursue things that are interesting to them to share outwardly with, the rest of the world.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on this one? This one kind of combined. I thought this was cool because I live in the mountains. This is the piece,
Mm.
the chosen one, where there's a piano kind of sitting in a nature scene. What was the inspiration here?
This one, I wanted to try and do a landscape scene like this because it's not really in my, um, yeah, it's not really something I do normally, but so it was a challenge for me. But once I placed the piano coming down the hill, it just, I just got so many ideas, and I wanted the kid and the piano to feel like they're trying to escape from something, and yeah, that was my goal. I just set up the scene around that.
Another thing that's kind of been discussed recently is the idea, people not comparing the work to Sam Spratt's skulls, but just this concept of you have 48, there are 50 skulls. It's kind of like, I feel like in this moment right now where the larger collections are getting high frequency traded and, a lot of the non fungible aspects of NFTs are starting to get removed. Like these smaller collections maintain a provenance in a way that is a little bit harder to pierce. I'm curious your
Yeah.
thoughts there. Like when you look at Skulls by Sam Spratt and just kind of this medium-sized collection that's united through a theme. If you think this is something that kind of works for the current moment.
I mean, yeah, so my only thought on that is like in regard to this piano collective that is forming itself, I can just tell that this collective exists to serve the muse. And I have no plans other than that. I don't know what's going to happen, but like with Sam, his his Lucy skulls were, they were sent out to people who supported his first auctions. They were sent out as gifts. And so I think the intent behind him and behind what he did and what I'm doing is totally different. And I get the collection size might be similar, but yeah, and he's a great friend of mine. So I think if I tried to do anything like he's doing, it would fail. And it's just not, I can't commit to things based on pressures from other people. Like I just have to continue letting the muse guide the way, and following the inspiration. So whatever comes to be of this, I think it could be really special, but you know, it's very early, and yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens.
What you mentioned the Muse a lot, and it's such a core theme in your work. And it was, the Christie's auction was around the Muse and that concept. What does that mean to you? And what's the basics of for someone who's new to your work? How should they think about what when you say the Muse, what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, so early on, like in my digital art career, I noticed I would come to these places where I had to make a choice that I thought other people might like, or a choice that I think is right. And the more times I chose what I felt is right deep down, um, the more opportunities for success arose. So yeah, so like my artistic intuition is what I refer to as the muse, and I do believe there is this energy source out there that connects through things and the universal laws and that sort of a thing. And yeah, I think if you're willing to be open and available to that energy, or to the whisper of the muse, then you're opening yourself up to great opportunities.
Yeah, it's such a I mean, having talked to a few artists and people who've done well in this space, it is something that I think is unites the artists so consistently that have succeeded is that they figure out their own voice and they stick to it. You just can't succeed in this business or in pretty much almost anything you do, if you're not just entirely true to yourself, because that doesn't anything else will not work for any long-term situation.
No, yeah, I think, and for me as an artist, I won't, if I don't let the feeling be the driving force behind what I'm doing, then I'll end up Like it's like if I commit to some, if someone asks me, "Hey, ACK, will you work on this project with me?" I'm kind of the worst guy to ask that because I'm so heavily committed to being in the moment and being available to the muse that like it's not. I'm gonna end up hurting someone's feelings because I just can't do anything on anyone else's time. It has to be inspirationally driven
Yeah, no, it's awesome to realize that about yourself, you know, and once you realize it, then you can be honest with yourself and with others. Which
for sure.
what if it's not too personal to ask, what's the muse kind of dictating right now? You mentioned that you feel like you're at the beginning right now. What do you think? Yeah, what are you looking forward to?
So the grand vision at the moment is building this grand skull piano that we're getting a Steinway and we're going to turn it into the first ACK and Daughters grand skull piano to be auctioned with Christie's. So yeah, so I'm on that journey. I'm at the beginning stages of that journey and just excited to go down that path and see what happens.
So this is a piano that
This
you
will
are
be a
going to add an artistic layer onto, and that will be
we
auctioned off
will
on.
we are building a skull like if you scroll through the collection and you find one of the like an ancient place or like the one in the uh let's see the Mad Pianist.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, like that's what it'll look like, but it'll be a grand piano, not an upright piano, and it'll be all made out of the same wood. So and there will
Wow.
be an yeah so it'll be auto playing. So the keys will play based on sheet music that I upload to it. So I can airdrop at 4 a.m. I can airdrop some Mozart to it and have it turn on and start playing itself wherever it's at in the world.
Well, and this is, you know, one of the things that's, I think, incredibly interesting about your path is that you've also kind of straddled the traditional art world as well. Like you had the Sotheby's, or sorry, the Christie's auction that didn't have an NFT at all. That was really just physical prints or silk screens, I believe.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this sounds like it's more kind of on that side. Like it's not going to be part of. It's not going to have NFTs associated with it. It's just going to be a normal,
It,
like a
no, there will
traditional
be an
piece.
NFT. There'll be an NFT attached to it that lets the owner operate the piano.
Wow. And
Yeah.
what's the timing on this auction?
Oh, well, it'll just be whenever so the Steinway takes 8 months to build, and we will probably take about that much time as well to build the skull. And and yeah, once we get them together, just depending on if we're closer to May or closer to November, we'll do one of the evening auctions there.
Incredible. I also want to kind of talk about some of the other aspects of your journey here. You know, one of the things that I have been impressed with is just the diversity and the breadth of the work you've done. I mean, you have a PFP project that,
Mm,
you know, which not a ton of one artists have. You were doing editions and the great color study. You know, before editions really took off, I felt like even though you didn't feel like it was early, like in that moment, it still felt like it got ahead of the meta for
hmm.
that. You know, this series of 48, you did the auction for the physical prints. You know, how, what is your approach there? Is it a thing where you're just constantly trying to figure out what's next, just thinking about new ideas? Now, this idea of creating a piano that you're going to auction at Sotheby's, like it just feels like you're just kind of one step ahead and always just, you know, creating your own path.
I mean, yeah, I think that's part of the reason um, I've been successful is because I'm just like to a fault, I'm dedicated to these things that I feel like I'll have a vision, an early vision for them, like I did with the silk screens. And once I had the vision, I knew I had to get to the end of that. And somehow, once I started moving towards that goal, doors would open up. And yeah, I think just being available to the creative inspiration maybe you hear from a song or something you think about, or maybe you see a film and it sparks your imagination. Being available to that, to like dive deeper and see what the message means to you and try to express that yourself. I think it really helps. And yeah, mostly just trying to tune out the noise because even my wife is like, we're not buying a Steinway piano just so you can put us going. And I just told her like we have to. Like I have to do this and obviously she's cool and on board with it now, but no sane person would spend that kind of money on a Steinway to make art out of it. But I mean it's just it feels right, so I have to do it.
Yeah. Was the process of moving in? I mean, it's kind of wild to me because you worked for the government, right? I think I remember
Hmm.
you saying that to Kevin,
Yes.
and then you left that to be an artist, and then you emerged as one of the top NFT artists in the space, and then you're having a premiere or a featured piece in Christie's in the traditional space. How it's just such a incredible journey over a really short time, compared
Thank
to
you.
where probably a lot of artists on Christie's who are selling for the prices you're selling for, what it takes to get them there. What was that like? What did you learn
Um,
from the process of doing a physical print as opposed to an NFT?
um, yeah, so I took that choice like very seriously because it was like my debut of the Muse in art. The only other piece she's in is a piece called Crypto Art on Super Rare, and but it's not like fully her. It's like there's like a crypto chart on top of her, or layered in, and but yeah, so this was like the debut, and it felt right to do it not as an NFT, to like pay homage to Warhol and doing a quadrant of the best colors. And this all came to be within the color study, and it all helped each other, like, because I got to the right three colors of the Muse, and then the color study happened, and then that's when I went back to the Muse to finish the final one for the quadrant. And it was amazing. Like Christie's was phenomenal to work with. You hear people like nagging on them, but really they were really like very much in tune with how to treat artists, and they made sure the framings were beautiful, and they really worked with me. It was great,
That's awesome. I
definitely.
saw here that that 6529 has also like your biggest sale, it seems like, and I assume it was
That
6529 because the price was
yes,
165.29. 6529 somewhere in that number.
yeah, yeah. So that one sold to him. It was my debut super rare piece, and then yeah, the day after, this piece on OpenSea I have called "Till Death Do Us Part" sold to the Starry. I'm sorry, yeah, sold to the Starry Nightcap for 200 ETH, which was wild and insane. But yeah, that will be one of the ones that gets liquidated with the Starry Night through AC collection through Sotheby's.
And what is that situation like? Like what's going on there right now with the Starry Night liquidation, and how are artists kind of being kept in the loop there?
Well, I mean, we're not really being kept in the loop. The only way, like one of my works called Right Click Print, I saw it this morning get transferred to the Sotheby's Grail's wallet, which tells me that it'll be being auctioned with the Sotheby's Grail's auctions coming up in the next few weeks, I think. So yeah, I'm kind of just learning as everyone else is, and I'm wondering what the heck's gonna happen, like because yeah, they own a bunch of my work, Starry Night and 3AC, so like they own 300 of the funders tokens that they were going to issue out to all the funders of Starry Night, and that never happened. So they're just kind of there, and I think there's a lot of demand for those, works in those collections. Even for like obviously they own the Goose, they own a lot of beautiful art blocks. So who knows?
Yeah, this you can't really see it here, and it's on looks rare. But is this the is it this is the
Mhm.
oh, this is right click print or right click print number two?
Yeah, so no, there's 15 of them, and I think they own number 12, I believe. But yeah, one of them, you'll see that it's in Sotheby's Grail's wallet. I think
Got
it's
it.
right click print number 11 or 12.
Got it. So that's going to be available for auction in this upcoming New York auction.
I don't know. I don't know. It'll be auctioned in one of the Sotheby's upcoming auctions for the 3AC liquidation, and then the Starry Night liquidation will start sometime after that. I think I'm not a
Yeah.
spokesperson
Yeah.
though. I'm not being involved at all.
It is kind of wild how you're just sitting here watching your work. And I suppose this is what happens in the traditional art world all the time is,
Yeah,
once that
yeah,
it just kind of gets moved from hands to hand. But it is, I guess it's one of the nice things theoretically about NFTs is that we can kind of keep better track of
for sure.
sales as they happen.
Yeah, I
But it
agree.
must be a little bit wild to have no idea what's going on with that at all.
It is. It is very wild. And I mean, I don't know how they're going to sell the 300 pieces. I might try and buy a few back myself, or I'd like to buy them all back from them at cost, but I don't think they would sell them to me. I think they want to auction them to the highest bidder is what I've been told.
Yeah, for sure. I'd imagine that. I mean,
Yeah,
it feels like for them, it was just easiest to go this route of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's just
It would
let this be
complicate.
Sotheby's situation
Yeah,
and not ours.
yeah.
I did want to ask you about this PFP collection just because I think, I talked about this with Jack Butcher when he was on the show. It's just kind of this idea that the profile picture has just kind of a very unique ability to create virality and to market your work for you and for people to really align with you as an artist. What's
hmm
been your experience? I mean, you only have a few PFPs in this collection, but what's been your experience as a PFP artist as well?
Um, yeah. I mean, I think I think it's really special because you know when I started these out. I I've auctioned every single one with zero reserve. So and the last one I think traded for like 32.69. And so yeah, it's something I treat very carefully because that's a that's an environment you don't want to just frivolously add shit to. You want to be thoughtful about how things get added to this this atmosphere here. But I do have, I have like soft plans or soft ideas that I think of that I want to incorporate into these worlds and just things I can't promise anyone anything utility. There can't be any promised utility. It just has to come naturally and organically. But I'm always available to those ideas.
Yeah, yeah. This is a very basic question, but I'm just kind of curious. What does glitch art mean to you? Like, what is when you do glitch art? Why is that a style that you are attracted to, and what are you trying to express via kind of the glitch medium?
Um, I think for me, like glitch art or like noisy art or GIFs or whatever, I think they help tell a story. Like they help add depth to a story without needing sound because oftentimes I think sound can ruin an artwork. So like these I think don't need sound, but they need a bit more than just being still images. Some of, most of them, the Pepe isn't. But yeah, I think it's just a way to enhance the story or to tell a different to tell a deeper story than just a still image.
So the laser eyes is your PFP. Like, why is that the one that you've picked, and why is that the one you've stuck with?
Because it just feels like me, like I'm looking up towards the muse and my eyes are lasering no matter what. So I think that really it just really represents me as an artist. I've been offered an all-time high for laser eyes, but I couldn't sell them. It'd be a mistake to sell.
Yeah, I'm actually the collection bid on OpenSea for this collection. I
Oh,
need to raise
really?
it. Well, I mean, I saw it. I was like, I'm gonna get that collection bid just in case somebody out there
Yeah.
wants to sell. But I need to crank it up right now. I got to get it up to like at least double digits just to put some
Thank
respect
you,
on this
man. Thank
project.
you. I
But
appreciate that.
I personally think like that PFPs from artists you respect is like one of the coolest things. To me, that's like the ultimate PFP is to have a unique one of one that fits that PFP kind of model from an artist you like. And Terrell Jones has one within a collection of him. There are a few people who've kind of embraced it a little bit,
Yeah,
but I just think it's such a, I don't know, if I could, it's something I think I might want to do at some point.
for sure. Yeah, no,
But
I
these ones
totally
haven't sold for 8 months. They're not for sale, really.
no. The cringe Pepe I made as an honorary for VVD, just because of all his support. But yeah, but all of the rest were like just born of through my art. And I made the 10th one actually while Richard from Manifold was coding up the auction site. I made the 10th ACK PFP, but I won't release that for quite some time. I don't know. I need to really sit back and think of how I can introduce him to the world.
You mentioned VVD. I'd say of so many of the artists who I've talked to say that it was VVD buying one of their pieces that like was that turning point for them. Like is that he
Yeah,
has this platform, and when he sees something and likes it, other people start paying attention. And he really is someone who I feel like, and 6529 and
for sure.
Cosimo and Batsupium, like there are a lot of people in this camp. But it does feel like there are a few collectors who really have had the opportunity to elevate artists and kind of put them
Yeah.
on another trajectory.
Yeah, no, yeah, 6529 was well actually Barat was like Barat and G Money were my two first like well-known collectors. And Barat bought a piece from me for point 0.1. G Money he bought one of my foundation pieces for like point 0.3. And this was in 2021, like maybe May, yeah, maybe June of 2021. And but yeah, then in DVD he came into my ecosystem through last orders and right click print. And he did a tweet about me after right click print, and then it really like elevated. I went from like a few thousand followers to like a few more thousand followers just because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things about you that, and I talked about this on my show a couple times, that just stands out so much has been how authentically thankful you feel it seems like you are to the people who support you and to your collectors. And I feel like sometimes in this space, there's kind of a bit of some, almost even some tension sometimes between artists and collectors. Not too much, but every now and then you have an artist who really just kind of like pours their soul and their heart into thanking the people around them that makes it possible. And I mean, even with you, you'll DM me when I mention you on the show and just say thank you. You know, it feels like you're so open and so warm and gracious towards the people who are kind of part of this journey with you. So I'm just saying that. I mean,
Well,
but
thank you.
what
Thank
are
you.
your thoughts
No,
on that? Is that something
I
that you notice as well?
no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't do it like intentionally, but I just feel like this is art is my it's my job. Like it is my job to be a good storyteller and to be a good artist. So like that's what I'm here to do now. So I need to take it seriously and make sure the people who support me know that, hey, you know what? Thank you. If you need any, like I'm sorry that I'm hard to get a hold of sometimes, but if you need anything from me, I'm here. And yeah, and just try to be, thankful for those who help prop me up. Um, and continue to do so, like 6529 and VVD and many others. And one of the interesting things about this piano collection was the amount of new collectors I got. It was just wild. Yeah, like people had never bought one single work of mine before. It just seemed like the perfect recipe for them to get involved in.
It was one of my favorite tweets, and I retweeted it. Someone put four pianos on their Twitter, and someone said, "Did you buy all four of those?" And he goes, "Don't be absurd. I bought five,"
Yes,
as though buying
that
four would be a
that
ridiculous thing to do.
that guy is such a legend. When I learned he bought five, I was like, I was in utter shock because of everything. But then to know someone bought five and for like pretty good, like for good, like very expensive prices, it was just I was like, oh my God. Yeah, but he's such a good dude. And I'm learning that all of these new collectors, they're just also like good energy, and it just feels like the right group of people to really be the piano collective.
When you get a new collector like that, like, what's kind of that process of getting to know them for you?
Um, I think I think just like being being present, but without being like annoying. You don't want to be an annoying artist, you know what I mean? You want to be authentic. And I mean, I'm saying this like I don't know what you don't know what like I'm just kind of going through and experiencing these things. I'm no expert, but like I know me personally, I don't like to feel pushed. I don't like to come off as pushy. I don't like to come off as anything. I want to explore new ideas and opportunities with these, great people.
It also feels like the titles are a big piece of your art. Like, I mean, there's one
Yeah.
piece, I got this for your girl. It feels like there's a little bit of a
Uh-huh.
romance kind of angle in a fraction
Yeah.
of your titles. Is that deliberate? And also, I mean, there's just such a poetry. I almost feel like when I talk about work sometimes and I don't include the title on my show or whatever,
Mm.
like I'm leaving out a piece of the art. But I feel like there's no one where that's more the case than it is with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think titling for me, especially, like, I just feel like the titling is part of the art. And, even like this, there's one in there called "You Mustn't Pick the Purple Flowers." And for me, that's the only way the piece works is with that title because it gives us just enough information to want to spend a few moments looking at the art and wondering why it was made. And, rather than just learning about it and moving on, I want to give the viewer the best opportunity to appreciate the art.
Yeah, it's almost like it just kind of gives a glimpse into your mindset that you otherwise wouldn't have as a
Mm.
viewer. What does you mustn't pick the purple flowers here? Here's the piece kind of pulled up. How does that all tie together with this piece?
So when I was making this scene, I started with the violin creature you see over there, and he just seemed like some sort of demonic figure. So I thought, okay, let me put him in some water, and I just started messing around with elements. But then once I added the yellow and the purple flowers, I realized like, okay, yeah, these flowers, you must not pick these flowers, and if you do, there will be consequences. So then I just started to build the scene around that, and I wanted one winged skull piano, and it just the scene just came together. So yeah, so in other words, this gold piano creature is daring enough to pick the purple flowers, and this what we're seeing is the first consequence of what happens if you do that.
Amazing. I also just want to ask about this one because it is one of the ones that stands out the most. I feel like it got highlighted the most. Yeah. What's your goal when people see this like really yellow, bright, flower filled piece here?
Um, I was just kind of experimenting and just discovered the work that was the case with a lot of these, but I just wanted something yellow and pretty. And this is just the end result of messing around with colors and elements. And mostly,
Yeah.
like, one thing about this collection that I really wanted to stay true to was just making pretty art. So, like, if something just looked pretty, like the one called pop art, it's just pretty to me. So it was an instant yes. And I tried to make that part of the cohesion.
The Rose Labyrinth, this feels like one that you highlighted in a few of like kind of more of the marketing around the project.
Mm, hmm.
I saw you tweet
Yeah.
this one as well.
Yeah, that one
Maybe
got
check.
that one got picked up by Flamingo DAO, so big shout out to them. They got two of them actually.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I love them. But yeah, so yeah, here's pop art, and this one to me just was an instant yes. Even though there's not a lot of story, this one to me is like the color is the art on this one, and it just really worked for me.
Cool. A few questions, kind of just I always like to ask a few kind of quick questions to wrap up some of these conversations. But what you just had a huge win. Win's the wrong word, just a huge success and a huge kind of statement about your work. What type of stuff when you get more ETH to spend? What type of NFTs do you like to buy?
Good question. Now, I like to support like newer artists, and of course, we all want a squiggle is something I've always wanted, but I think I want to go look at some newer artists and buy some one of ones and just support my peers, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to go discover it though, just like with the art I make, I also like to discover the art that I collect, and obviously I know I'm not alone in that, but
Are there
yeah,
any artists you have your eyes on right now?
yeah, so many. It'd be too tough to like name one because I would be leaving someone out. But yeah, there's definitely a ton of newer artists that I'm loving and would hopefully can support.
Cool. What advice would you have to people doing additions based on your experience with the color study?
Like now, like
Yeah, I
you
mean,
mean like
if someone, I mean, you said you weren't excited at first about doing additions, but then you did one and it was a success, and it's
mm,
really kind of a triumphant set here. But what? Yeah, what did you learn from it, and what advice would you give if someone else wanted to go down a similar path?
I think like exploring ideas like color studies and giving collectors an opportunity to like curate to self-curate the ones they want from a collection is worth exploring if you can do it, interestingly. And I think, yeah, like it's hard to say like what other artists should or shouldn't do. I mean, I think if a large scale edition works for whatever you're wanting it to work on, then it's worth pursuing. I think artists should just be available to that inner voice and that intuition and just, drive towards those places.
Yeah, I can see where your kind of concept around the muse would make it also tough to want to give advice of any sort because so much of your success is about listening to kind of your inner self and acting based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like realistically, yeah, it's good to have a few some additions out there. I guess it just depends. Like depends on the demand of your art, but also it just depends on what's necessary for the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah. How do you think I've heard you say in other interviews that you like to be deliberate about not putting too much work out at once, while at the same time keeping enough of a cadence to kind of stay relevant and to let people know you're there. Do you have kind of a strategy, I should say, or a philosophy around thinking about how much ACK art is out there?
I mean, I know I have a lot of art out there, but fortunately, it's like it's all in healthy price ranges. So, there's like the color studies if you wanna get into if you wanna collect my work and you're in the point 0.1 to point 0.5 Ethereum range, and then this could be a good entry for you. Or I also have like lower count editions that other those collectors could try and get into. I think it just was kind of like a chance thing. Like I didn't intend any of that really. But moving forward, yeah, of course, like I'm super strict and very thoughtful about what I'm doing, and I'm not just gonna add. I'm not gonna just throw art out there for like for laughs or anything. Like I'm taking it very seriously.
And then last question. I think this is you've mentioned like when you first started, your wife said, what are we doing here? This is not a good use of time." I imagine NFT art is very new to your family, to people you've
Mm-hmm.
worked with before. How do you describe this whole movement and what you're doing to people who are new to the space? And what's that conversation generally like?
Honestly, I've mostly just like the few times I've talked about it, I've just said I'm an artist, and then if there's questions beyond that, I just say I paint, or like I make silk screens, or like I make digital art. But I don't try to uncover this big mystery of what an NFT is. I just tell them like very simple terms how it's done, and I try to keep it as simple as possible without having to throw all of these words at them and just make it like I'm an artist and I make art and that's it.
And do you find people get it and are along for the ride, or what's the response?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. M Most people, like when I explain it to them in that way, they're interested. Like immediately interested, and they want to learn more. And of course, they have their nephew or their son or their friend who's an artist, and they want to like try and onboard them. And um, but yeah, I think it's just up to each individual if they have that artistic gift, they're gonna continue making art, and they'll find a way eventually.
Yeah, sounds good. And what do you think is the best way to experience your art? I can imagine as someone where there's movement and there's different colors, like just seeing it on an OpenSea page is just not what you have in mind for the end user.
Mm.
But what do you think is the ideal way for someone to experience the work your work?
So I think one of the things that really helped this collection, which was just organic, was the On Cyber gallery. Because On Cyber, a few weeks before the collection launched, I reached out to On Cyber, was like, hey, would y'all be willing to build an On Cyber based on this design I have? And they were like, you know what? Yeah, send us the design. And so I just sent them like four skeleton dudes holding up canvases. They were in water like up to their neck, and they're holding canvases, and I sent them the models, and yeah, they put it into their world, and they just started building and adjusting, and we got yeah, it's a beautiful gallery, and it really really helped the experience. And what's cool with the gallery is like that's my place now forever. So like if I have something I need to discuss with the piano collective, then I just do that in there, and we'll have our own place to meet, which is I think could be really cool for artists to explore.
Cool. And if someone wants to explore that gallery, how do they best find that link?
So yeah, it's onfiber.io/slaves to the muse.
Say that one more time. Slash what to the
Onso
muse?
yeah, onfiber.io/slaves to the muse.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll throw it in the show notes as well.
Cool.
And I think we'll end with that. If people want to really immerse yourselves and experience ACK's work, yeah, check the link in the show notes. And experience it for yourself. I think this collection has just enchanted a lot of people and just brought attention. There was the one of one sale to Cosimo, with the piano in it, but not even part of this project. Just a day later, and just brought people's attention back to just the breadth of work that you've put into this ecosystem. So, thank you so much for coming on. It's awesome to get to chat, especially after such a monumental sale that you just had.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it was an honor to be here. I'm a big fan of your show. I do listen and I do tune in as much as I can. And yeah, I appreciate, you asking a couple questions, and thank you for having me on.
All right, that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you would like to help us out, head on over to proof.xyz and click on the reviews button at the very top and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks so much. Take care.